Stop. Don't go anywhere too fast. It's time to listen to a Head Over the Footy podcast.
Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of Head Over the Footy. My name's Max Hatzoglou and today we've got plenty to discuss. It's been one of the biggest rounds of the season and we've got Sam Gill here to talk about it. Welcome, Sammy.
Yeah, thanks for having me back.
Pleasure to have you, mate. And let's hop straight into it. And we're starting off with that North Melbourne Collingwood game. What did you make of it? North Melbourne, they got out to a 54-point lead just after half-time, and then Collingwood ended up coming back and winning by a point. It was a remarkable result. What did you think?
Yeah, it was one of the games of the year. I sort of had the score on. I was driving back from the country and then managed to watch sort of the Collingwood comeback. And I guess the interesting thing for me was at no point looking at the score did I think, I was like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't think, oh, shit, North Melbourne's going to win this game. Like when they got to 50 points up, I was like, geez, they might actually win. But I still, like, they were 50 points up and I was like, I'm not quite sure. And then, yeah, I saw the score sort of ticking over on my phone as I was looking at it, and then I got home and I chucked it on, and there was about 3 or 4. I don't think I've seen a game this year where there's been 3 or 4 shocking decisions in a row right at the end of the game, which affected the outcome. So there was the Nick Dacos holding the ball. Mm. There was another holding the ball. I can't remember who that was. And then there was obviously the non-50 metre penalty on, I can't remember which North Melbourne player.
And that was, I think it was like Bailey Scott. And that was the biggest one, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the biggest one. Though, yeah, it was sort of like a weird one because it was like he sort of went to play on, but he didn't completely play on. So the call should have been either play on or it should have been 50 metres. It couldn't have been neither of them.
Yeah.
And yeah, so there was a bit in that.
Yeah.
So if I was a North supporter, I'd be proud with the effort and like that they, have showed that they've actually got some fight. And like now there's no excuses really for the rest of the year. Like in terms of getting smashed every single week, like they've shown they can play.
Yeah.
But I'd also be filthy at the loss. Though they should never have let them get back in. And yeah, there was a few things that probably led to that, like Clarkson taking the tagger off Phillips.
Yeah. And then Dacos tore it up after Phillips went off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the umpiring free kick, and like it's been in the news, Laura Kane coming out, and it was kind of a ridiculous sort of statement where she came out and said that it was, that it was actually a mistake that the umpire. What did she say again? Can you remember what it was like?
Oh, she's ultimately she said that it was the correct decision.
Did she? No, I thought she said it was the wrong decision, but there was a previous wrong decision. I think she said that they should have played. The call should have been play on, and it wasn't, or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what she said. She said it was a confusing situation, and I understand why people are left wanting to understand what happened. One of 2 calls could be made. It could be play on immediately, or it could be stand, which would indicate the mark has been paid. Neither of those 2 calls occurred in the immediate moments after the whistle was blown, and Bailey takes 4 steps or so inbound and looks to play on. The correct call should have been to play on initially. That has caused confusion for the players in the immediate vicinity, being the Collingwood players. That was a delay. The communication was the error, I guess. Like, the initial mistake, if you like, is that play on wasn't called. What's next didn't come quick enough. Every objective marker of play on was there. We need certainty. Anyway, that's what she said, and then she goes on to talk about the arc, which is a different thing. But yeah, the umpire should have blown the whistle and said play on or stand straight away. And she's saying that the umpire didn't do that, and that caused the confusion. So she's found a way to come up with a way of saying that, a way of avoiding to say that it was all wrong.
Yeah,
which is a bit like piss poor. Just like everyone knows what happens. Like it should have been a 50, but and there's a but. Like I can see, and I'm a bit biased here because I'm a Collingwood supporter, but I can see why the umpire and the players, like because they might have just instinctively just thought, okay, it hasn't gone the required distance, and they're just going to go and tackle him. So there is another side to it, I think.
Yeah, I understand the Collingwood players. It was Sidebottom and another one, sort of doing that. But I've seen that happen before a million times, and it's always 50 metres.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
the umpire blew the whistle for a mark.
Yeah,
and then
he played on.
I've never seen that situation occur and it not either be play on or 50 metres. And it should have been 50. Looking at it, like that's what happened.
Yeah,
and I also don't understand why she is the one that why she's comes out and do these videos. Like it doesn't seem good for her. Like she's just gonna get rinsed. Like she's not the one making the decisions.
Yeah, she's holding a very high up position and she makes a lot of big decisions.
Yeah,
but I don't know. It doesn't make it any sort of. You know what? It adds a great theatre to the game, and it adds a lot of commentary, which is a good thing. But it also adds a bit of confusion. You want it to be clear.
Yeah, but no. What I'm saying is, why don't they just do a press release? Why does she come out and do this video? And like, I think that like it's not necessarily her fault for the way if she comes out and has to explain these like confusing umpire calls, like. It's not necessarily coming from her, but she cops all the blame.
Yeah.
And there's probably like a bit of, if you look online, there's a bit of, I reckon there's a bit of sexism to it. To the hate
there is,
she gets, like, because she wasn't a player and she's a woman and she's quite young as well.
Yeah.
And people think she's inexperienced. Where if it was just some bloke, they probably wouldn't get that much. Like it doesn't mean she shouldn't be criticised, but it's sort of a bit like the Kelly Underwood stuff. Like you see Kelly Underwood and she's probably not the greatest commentator, but she gets more hate than she deserves.
Absolutely.
Because of the fact she's a woman.
Yeah.
So if you're a woman, you have to be better effectively in the eyes of the public to not get that hate.
And that's just completely wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you there, and there's probably a bit of that in all of it. But yeah. Anyway, we'll move on.
Well, one more thing I want to say about Collingwood, North Melbourne. I think Collingwood they're the Novak Djokovic of the AFL.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
In what sense? Oh no. Yeah. Explain it to me.
Well, no one really likes them.
They're all
unless you're a supporter.
Well, most of them are vaccinated. If there was a Novak Djokovic of the AFL, it'd probably be. There isn't really one. Anyway, explain it because I'm confused right now.
Well, no one really likes them, and it doesn't matter how far down in a game they are. You think they're going to come back, and sometimes you think that they're doing it on purpose. That it's almost like they're foxing. They're like, all right, we'll let them get a few goals ahead, think they're going to win, and then we just use the momentum. Like I've seen Djokovic do it a million times throughout his career. And there is a bit of, when Collingwood get in front these days, get behind, you sort of just like, it's inevitable. They're coming back. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't
And
know.
they ride the momentum.
Yeah. So that's a very good compliment you're making.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about Joel Amati because I've got him further down the list, but I've just elevated him right up because I am absolutely fuming about why John Longmuir Longmire, I should say, took him off for a second time in the last quarter when he's on 9 goals. He already got taken off early in the last. He's on 9 goals, and there's about 5 minutes left, and guess what they do? They take him off. Why would you do that? It's just ridiculous, really. I don't know why they did it. It was just stupid. I'm completely fine with him coming off early in the fourth because, and the commentator was saying, oh, why is he off? Why is he off? Why is he off? Like, he's not going to kick his 10th. He won't kick his 10th. But, like, that rest actually could have helped him kick a 10th goal because he would have re-energised and come back out and been going. So he re-energised, came back out, and then they took him off for the second time in the quarter. I couldn't believe it. Anyway, Joel Amartey, what did you? We'll talk about his game, but what did you make of that?
Yeah, it wasn't great, and it made no sense. Like, you're not talking about taking, you saw like Melbourne when they're in the prelim final, they took like Gawn, Petrarca, Oliver off like the most important players. It's, Joel Amartey obviously has kicked 9 goals, but he's not a superstar. And he's also, it's a mid-week game, mid-round game, and they might have the bye soon, or if they already had it, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't make any sense.
Even if it was a prelim and he was on 9 goals. Yeah. It'd be the right thing to keep him on there. Anyway, he didn't have a touch in the first quarter. He had 2 tackles in the first quarter and then came out and kicked 9. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and I don't know, I guess, you got to have these, like, he's not a star at the moment, but maybe he could be. You never know. And it's sort of been the profile of premiership lists to not have, like, I don't know, he seems like a type of guy that could be a premiership full forward if you're looking at the lists that have won premierships in the last few years, and they haven't necessarily had that big key forward. Like Melbourne didn't have a big key forward. Collingwood, Myercheck isn't, a Curnow or a Mackay or a Josh Kennedy. Obviously, then you go back to Hawkins and Cameron, obviously. Yeah. But like, generally, when you look at premierships over the years, Bulldogs, they didn't have... Who was Bulldogs' key forward? It was like Joel Hamling, was it?
Yeah.
Or Jordan Roughhead. Yeah.
Certainly possible.
Yeah.
Sam, another point is Dusty's 300th was a great game. That was sensational to watch. Did you catch it?
No, I didn't. I saw parts of it. I saw the first goal, which must have been... Were you at the game?
Oh, I was covering it for the Herald Sun. It was full on.
That must have been one of the biggest roars you ever hear at the G.
Oh, it was one of the biggest roars at the MCG, no doubt about it, because it was a situation like no other. Like everyone, it wasn't like a premeditated thing. So there's more of a surprise factor to it. And that goal, when Dusty got the ball, it was off the back of a turnover in the forward half. No one was expecting Richmond to score a goal. They suddenly get a turnover. Hugo Ralph-Smith handballs it to Dusty, and Dusty charges in from 55 and goes bang from 49.5 metres and it kicks the goal. And everyone was just in absolute shock and in just absolute thrill of it, because what a goal it was. And he is a legend of the game. He's a unique character, and he's a great team player. And he loves the club, loves the players, loves football, and he's also such a good player as well. And a lot of people like him. And when I was reading about him on Saturday morning before the game, Mark Robinson wrote a good article in the paper and just talking about, he interviewed his junior coaches. And what they were saying about him were, some great things. And he was doing the don't argue when he was 15, playing for Castlemaine, and the umpires would call it a high free kick, because he'd get people and maybe get them a bit high, or it'd just be something so different. Like you never see a don't argue before, and he brought it into the game, and I will give credit to, I think it was Damien Hardwick and all his coaches who kept encouraging him to do it. And even his junior coaches, because he was giving away free kicks when he was doing it. But they just said, keep doing it because you're a star. And in that game he kicked, for Castlemaine, he kicked like 5 goals in a half in the game that the recruiter came and watched him. And that's how he got picked up. And he's just a great story. And well, it was just a sensational game to watch. And even though they lost, people say it spoiled the party that Richmond lost, but it didn't spoil the party at all, really. Like, okay, yeah, it sort of did, but Dusty was still celebrated. Like, that wasn't spoiled at all. He got celebrated well after the game, and the way he went around and acknowledged the crowd was just unbelievable, really. I was shocked by it, and it was quite good scenes. And then the interview with Jack Revolt was great, and then he got cheered off, and that was it. But it would have been nice if Richmond won. It probably would have added a little bit to it. But like, Dusty was still celebrated beautifully, and it was a great afternoon / evening in that twilight game at the MCG.
Yeah, I think Dusty people, because he's like media shy or whatnot, people think that maybe he's like arrogant or whatever, whereas I've heard that like around the club and stuff he's very generous with his time and whatnot. He just is quite a shy sort of person and is not into it. And yeah, it's crazy to see 92,000. I think it was Richmond's biggest home and away crowd in like 40 years or something.
Yeah. And
they're almost bottom of the ladder. And they're playing Hawthorn, who aren't like a huge club with a huge supporter base. And yeah, I wasn't there obviously, but I heard everyone stayed to the end, and it seemed like it was almost like it was obviously there was a football game being played, but it sounded like it was more of like a homage to Dusty. Like it was like almost like do you think it was a farewell tour? Did it seem like that? Because you would get those sort of, I can imagine that sort of thing for like a player's final game, but for a 300th, it's I've never seen that before. Yeah. And do you think that maybe people was maybe suspecting, because there was a bit of talk that he was going to retire after he made 300, that was the occasion? Like, say he retires at the end of the year or retires at the end of next year, do you think that it'll happen again?
Yes, it is certainly a part of the farewell tour, because he's at the back end of his career now. This is his last season, if not his second last or third last. Now, he's definitely playing for the rest of this season. That's been said. Whether he gets another contract with Richmond, there's all sorts of reports happening at the moment, and it's just all from different sources. It's from Richmond people, then there's some from Dusty's people, like his manager and like that side of things. And then there's stuff coming from other places like other clubs and AFL, whatever. All these sorts of reports. No, it's all sort of speculation, and no one exactly knows what's happening at the moment. But yeah, of course, I think it's part of the farewell tour, because he hasn't got much left, and and what a big moment. So make the most of it. 92,000 people came out, and I think he really recognised that. Like 92,000 people came out in a game which would normally get 50 to 60,000. So he knew that so many people had come out for him, and he knew he thanked them so many times in that interview with Jack Revolt. And when he was walking around and with his arm up, waving to the crowd, he was thanking him in that moment as well. So it just says a lot about him, I think.
Yeah. For me, it looked like a farewell.
Yeah, well,
who knows what ends up happening, but
yeah, it could be his last year.
Yeah.
But I think he's pretty confident from all the different reports I've read and hearing from Caroline Wilson, who's quite close to Richmond and everything going on there. It sounds like he's definitely going to play a few more games. It's not going to be his last.
Yeah.
All right, Sammy, we'll quickly roll into our tipping now. I had a great week, 6 out of 6 for me, so I'm very happy. I thought I actually tipped Richmond, but luckily I tipped Hawks. But I thought Dusty and Richmond, it'd be a nice little...
Were you the Morts Meets tipster of the round?
No, I wasn't, good question. The Morts Meets tipster of the round was Mike Mortimer, the man behind Morts Meets. He almost got the award, but he just missed out, unfortunately, as much as we'd love to give it to him. Let's work this one out. So a lot of people got 6 this week. And then what we do is, because a lot of people get 6, we go to the person that's on top. So the person that's had 6, so 2 people are on 81. So then we have to work it down to margin. And the Morts Meets tipster of the week is Connor Kennedy. He won't be listening.
Where is he?
He'll see the post though.
Where is he right now?
He's in Greek. He's in the Greek islands. He's in Greece.
Okay.
All right. So well done to Connor Kennedy. He's the Morts Meets tipster of the week. And he's second on the ladder overall. So he's flying at the moment. And so is Gary M. He's going well. He's on 83 with a 2-point buffer of a lead. So well done to him.
You know who won't be happy about Connor's tipping success?
Who?
Charlie.
Why?
Why do you think? They're
They're
little
rivals.
weird rivalry bromance.
Well, that's a good segue into the father-son situation and academy picks and Laura Kane coming out and saying that they could make changes to all this, and when we're less than 5 months away from it all happening.
Yeah.
Sam, what do you think of it? Charlie wasn't happy about it. He's not here today, but he was going to send in a voicemail. He didn't do that, so he's
I can
in
read
trouble.
out what he said.
Yeah.
It touches, so Charlie's got 2 things he wants to say, and it touches on his 2 passions, and that's one's the Carlton Football Club and the other one's his hatred of the Collingwood Football Club. So he writes, you better discuss, 1, how unbelievably outrageous it is the AFL might change the draft roles for this year, in cap locks, without informing clubs after they've planned years in advance as per the current rules. And 2, that the AFL have ticked off the non-50 metre call and Jack Chris touch goal despite every reasonable person being able to see. 1, it should have been 50, and 2, Cripps' goal was touched. Unbelievable. ... So I suspect that the reason he's angry about the father-son rule is because Carlton have Scott Camperali's twins coming in.
Yeah.
And that if the rules are changed, they might not be able to get both of them. I'm not quite sure where they are in the draft rankings or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't get why the father-son is such a big deal. It's just fucking random, you know?
It's random. Exactly right.
It's not like the academies where it's an actually unfair thing. The father-sons, everyone, you know, everyone has players.
Yep.
They all have the ability to procreate. Some have sons, some have daughters. Some of their sons are good at footy, some are not good at footy.
The only
it's you get lucky, and that's part of the beauty of the game.
Yeah.
I actually they just want to keep restricting it, and there's no other sport in the world that has it. It's so unique.
Yep.
And I think they should even. I think they should even. I understand the bidding system and stuff, and that is good, but you don't need to go so hard on it. It's just, you know, it's just luck. You know? And I reckon they should even have a grandfather-grandson rule, but maybe it's 200 games. Because I'm pretty sure there's a player this year whose grandfather is Doug Wade, who played for Geelong and someone else, well before our time, but he was a legend. And and if
that'd be awesome.
If your grandfather was, who's a Collingwood player I'm thinking of? If your grandfather, say for Richmond, was Kevin Bartlett, and you grew up a passionate Tigers supporter, but your dad wasn't good enough to play, but you are, I reckon, you should be able to go to that club.
Keep the tradition going for sure.
Yeah.
So some clubs have, apparently, according to Laura Kane, they've been on notice. So some have some according to Tom Morris in his reports, he's saying that sub clubs haven't been on notice, and they're annoyed about it because this is like one of the first times, if not the first time, they're hearing about it. So that's an issue, and that if that's all true, which it is because it's been reported, well, that's an issue, and they got to sort that out. And yeah, so that's it on that really.
Yeah, I think because now with future draft picks, I think Carlton knew they had these guys coming, and they've traded picks and whatnot to have more points. So if you change the system, you need to now change it at least 1 year in advance, because people are trading 1 year in advance and you're getting ready. And I think Gold Coast had already, they knew that last year they had all those academy picks, and they had traded to do that.
Yeah.
So then if you change the rules on them, it's not very fair. So I do agree with Charlie in this instance.
I agree with him too.
But I understand why he thinks that, because Carlton have got some father sons. Yeah.
Oh, a lot of people are with him, and I'm with him, and you are. And this should have been done behind closed doors. If Laura Kate and the AFL thought, okay, we want to make changes, let's see what the clubs think. They think, nah, we need more notice. We've been planning this for 3 years beforehand. They need more notice. But it's been done publicly through an interview.
Yeah,
which is fine, but it's a little bit of an embarrassment, and the clubs are annoyed because it's the first time they're hearing about it. And I think the AFL will concede here, and they'll just hit pause and bring, if they want to bring in changes, they're going to have to wait a bit longer.
And it's all in reaction to the Gold Coast picks last year. Everyone's freaked out because they've got these 4 good players, but that's random. What other good academy players have Gold Coast have in the last 10 years?
Yeah.
They had Jack Bowes, I think, who was traded to Geelong.
Oh, it's all luck. I've spoken to a senior recruiter about this, and he thinks the draft system is fine. Yeah,
and I think that I've heard that it's a few clubs that are getting angry, like St Kilda, about it, and it's you're not gonna get good, complaining about other clubs. They should be focusing on themselves. And different clubs get advantages in different ways. St Kilda gets more money from the AFL than anyone. Yeah. And I don't want this to be shitting on St Kilda, but yeah.
The mindset.
I Gold Coast haven't made finals for 11 years. They got lucky last year with their 4 picks. Other clubs have got incredibly lucky, like Collingwood, having Darcy Moore, Dacos's. They got Isaac Quainer through the academy system. So yeah, I just reckon, it's a bit of a non-issue. If Gold Coast are getting, 4 first-round draft picks every year, then it's probably an issue.
Yeah.
But just because of 1 year, people are very trigger happy, I think, in the AFL to, as soon as something happens, they just all right, we need to change it. It's what we've spoken about, the draw stuff, becomes this whole issue.
Yeah,
it's just
exactly. And it was the same thing with the holding the ball. A few coaches complained and they make the change. Very trigger happy. Anyway, that's going to wrap us up for round 14. We'll quickly just let you know about the results. Brisbane beat St Kilda by 20 points. That was on Friday night. The Bulldogs thumped Fremantle, so that was a thumping win for the Bulldogs. Well done to them. Disappointing extremely for Fremantle. We spoke about Richmond Hawks. Hawks won that game by their biggest win of the season. It was a 48-point margin. Sydney defeated Adelaide. Adelaide were in it in the first 2 quarters. They led it half-time and quarter-time. Then they let things slip. Collingwood kicked 10 of the last 13 goals, and they won by a point over North in one of the best games of the season. And in the last one, this one was a tight game, and GWS ended up winning it. It was over Port Adelaide by 22 points. That wraps us up. Round 14 review done. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks, Sammy, for your thoughts.
No worries. Thanks for having me back.
We'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in.